Just a few weeks ago, it seemed that life forever after was going to be simply enduring the sensation all day, every day of Elon Musk poking you repeatedly in the eye. But it's suddenly changed, and you have to think that it's because the implosion of Musk's influence on Trump and all of those consequences he spent the last few months setting in motion with his political grandstanding, these are all coming together like a bucket of cold water in the face. Let's review the evidence, some of which is pretty jaw-dropping. Now, it's been obvious for quite some time that Elon Musk was on a self-destructive course, and we've talked about that before. A businessman who was Sieg Heiling, campaigning on behalf of far-right parties in Europe and ripping through the foundations of American governments, disrupting, cancelling programs, and doing so really badly. So, of course, it's been established for a while now that this was going to have an incredibly negative impact, at least on any of his businesses that sold to actual customers, and especially businesses like Tesla that sell to more progressive customers than to the sort of people who think that a spot of Sieg Heiling is just a lark amongst friends. But it seemed for a while that his star remained undiminished with Trump, even though he'd clearly irritated many of Trump's picks for cabinet positions. But this is the thing, losing all of those friends eventually comes back to bite you. That's a basic law of politics, indeed of life itself. So some little indicators started to emerge. Just a couple of days ago, the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who is in the ascendancy with Trump, he got rid of Musk's candidate for Commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service. Gary Shapley had been pushed in without Bessent's agreement to run the agency temporarily. Well, Bessent got Trump's approval to oust him and install his own preferred candidate instead. Thank you very much. It's just the latest example of Trump aligning with the people he, after all, picked to run his departments, however badly qualified some of them may have been, versus Elon Musk, who just ripped through those departments like the proverbial bull in the china shop. He was reined in pretty publicly by Trump when it appeared that he was about to receive a classified briefing on China at the Pentagon. And of course, his main claim to influence, his ability to shove enormous wadges of cash into political campaigns, that was sharply called into question when he made a high-profile fight of the Wisconsin Supreme Court race and lost. He has also been grumpily and publicly against Trump's tariff policies, which has been apparently tolerated, but his voice raised against them has had zero impact in practice. Some would probably regret that particular failure, of course, but I digress. But what's happening now? Well, unbelievable though it may be, he's gone a lot more quiet. I mean, not silent, because, you know, Elon. But at the time of shooting this video, his Twitter feed for the last few days has been significantly reduced from his mad height. And it has almost all consisted of posts related to his actual business interests. The sort of posts that, if those had been what he'd been doing for the last 6 months, and only those, it'd probably still be relatively popular across the country and across the world. You know, stuff about the achievements of SpaceX, stuff about his Grok AI project, couple of mildly political posts, mostly retweets, nowhere near his usual foaming at the mouth standard, one retweet of Donald Trump. 3 days ago, he retweeted the latest in a long string of disinformation about grooming gangs in the UK. That was about as radical as it got, and it was pretty low-profile stuff for him. One journalist, Kate Conger, did a review of his posting and identified that in March this year he was posting an average of 107 times per day. But in April that was down to less than half that, at 55 times. It's a sort of shift you might make if you had suddenly woken up to the reality that your behaviour was trashing your businesses, and investors are not simply watching it all happen with indulgent smiles on their faces. But not only that, a lot of the incredibly intrusive and apparently careless behaviour of the Doge work teams that he has been leading, That has been attracting the sort of negative heat that finally starts to count. Now, for example, one whistleblower has given an account which has been shared with Congress and was leaked to NPR, and it is pretty extraordinary stuff. Doge employees entered the headquarters of the National Labour Relations Board. As soon as the engineers were granted access, technical staff members noticed a spike in data being exported out of the agency, which was likely to include sensitive information that should never leave the agency. The Doge team took steps to prevent their actions being logged by the system. They turned off monitoring tools, manually deleted records documenting their access, all the sorts of things that hackers learn how to do as a routine part of their operations. And it's not something you would ever legitimately do in a professional environment. As the whistleblower said, it violates every core concept of security and best practice. Now here's the real kicker. Within about 20 minutes of Doge members creating new logins and passwords for themselves with system-wide access, the technical employees saw login attempts taking place from a computer IP address in Russia, which was using the correct credentials the Doge people had only just created. If you want to know if the Trump administration is filling its ranks with Putin sympathizers and sacking lots of the people responsible for defending against foreign hacking attacks, whether that's having anything more than just a theoretical risk, well, here you go. There are only two ways you could explain what they saw. One, Doge equipment has been compromised by Russian hackers who were following their activity in real time. Or two, at least one member of Doge was actively sharing their activity with said hackers as a conscious and deliberate act of treason. Neither of those are good, I would suggest. Luckily, the logins were blocked, because the system had a very basic security setting not to allow foreign login attempts. Was that the case for everywhere else in government they went? We don't know. In the meantime, the whistleblower, one Daniel Baroulis, his account was corroborated by internal documentation and apparently was reviewed by numerous technical experts across other government agencies. After he'd first started raising his concerns internally, someone physically taped a threatening note to his door, which included sensitive personal information and overhead photos of him walking his dog, apparently taken with a drone. Now, do we think such a report would be gladly received by the president? I mean, we know the administration is testing the boundaries of lawfulness, possibly to put itself in time beyond the rule of law. But enabling Russian hackers to steal government data, don't think that's the hill they want to die on. Rather than, sending someone they can claim to be a gang member to El Salvador, where they feel it makes them look patriotic and strong and effective, albeit not much caring about, basic human rights and due process and boring stuff like that. If it was just one case, maybe it wouldn't matter. I mean, it should. Pretty breathtaking stuff, but things are not normal, so maybe it wouldn't. But such stories are becoming a growing body of complaints and testimony over how Doge is accessing and treating data. Also, there was an incident with one of the Doge engineers, Jordan Wick. Wick had been sharing his coding projects on GitHub, and a journalist noticed one project that Wick was working on, which was called NXGen BDOR Extract. The NLRB case management system is called NXGen. So it suggested that Wick had been making a backdoor to that system to extract data from it. As soon as the journalist started drawing attention to this, Wick made his GitHub account private. Experts interviewed by NPR said that there were no legitimate reasons tied to Doge's stated mission why you would need to remove the data from the case management system. There are, however, a number of live cases ongoing between the NLRB and Elon Musk's companies. So, for instance, in one case, a group of SpaceX employees lodged a complaint with the NLRB, leading the company to file a suit against it. So Musk clearly has a very direct conflict of interest, to say the least. Accessing the data would give his company information about the cases that that department is building against him. All of this is likely why Elon Musk's Doge is now being audited by the Government Accountability Office. The GAO is an independent auditing agency for Congress. It seems to be demanding comprehensive information from the various agencies about Doge activity. This is the first sign of possible, actual accountability and oversight, since the people appointed by Trump have been remarkably uninterested in such concepts. The review will be completed by the end of spring, we are told, and it will result in a report that will be made public. Add to this the fact that Musk's promises for $1 trillion in savings to be generated by Doge has flopped into a much smaller $150 billion claim. And even with that claim, it's not at all clear it's not significantly being overclaimed, since the majority of it is currently undocumented. So what does Trump have to show for all of this? Sure, Elon helped him win the presidency, but since then, well, Elon has been loud and in your face all over the place. He has been highly controversial in unnecessarily insulting world leaders, seeking to interfere in their elections, entirely on a freelance basis, not particularly aligned with Trump's own priorities. He has stormed across government, upsetting a lot of people, sacking a lot of other people with zero care and attention, which has infuriated a significant portion of Republican supporters across the country, along with everyone else. He has not delivered the savings that were supposed to come out of all that activity. He has become even more unpopular than Trump himself, to the degree that the fact of him injecting money into an election actually seemed to count against the candidate he was supporting. The election became about Elon Musk, and he lost. And now, for people around Trump who are showing themselves, at least for now, more effective politicians, are using their growing influence with Trump to decisively edge Musk out of their way. Now, of course, Trump still speaks warmly of Musk, but his influence has clearly started to fizzle. His profile is tanking. Soon, all that's going to be left to him are all those messy consequences that were obviously and always going to be coming round to bite him once the tide turned. No doubt he'll try to pull a few more high-profile antics as he seeks to get out of the slow circling down the drain he must have noticed is his trajectory by now. He will not, we know, go entirely quietly. Maybe he'll even find a way to reinvent himself again in the future. But the next bit, which is going to last for a while, is going to be extremely ugly for Elon Musk. And for some people, you know, those that he has attacked and sacked and otherwise disturbed, no doubt they will be there to watch every moment of it.